Oh,
No, we're ready to go now. So welcome everybody who's watching and anybody who's watching the video later. My name's Liz and I'm based at Project Zero at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And today we're very excited to be sharing some tips and advice and some ideas for the classroom from some of our participating teachers from Out of Eden Learn. So I'm going to play a very minimal role here today, just trying to keep the show loosely held together. We're going to start by having our guest educators introduce themselves, and then they're going to take a bit of time each sharing some of the things they do in their classroom before we move into a conversation and take any questions that there might be from people who are watching. So, Andy, would you like to go first to say a few words about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm Andy Richardson, and I teach at Lincoln Community School here in Accra, Ghana, 6th grade, and yeah, and this is our first year with Out of Eden Learn, so it's really been a learning experience for me as well as my students, but it's been great so far. I've gotten a lot out of it. I think the students have as well.
Great, thank you. Kyriaki? If you unmute, Kyriaki.
Okay. I did it? Yes. My name is Kyriaki Meliou. I am from Piraeus, Greece. I am an early childhood education, and I'm working for the public sector, and this is actually my second year in the Out of Eden Learn community, and I'm very happy about this.
Great, well, thank you, Kyriaki. Rob, do you want to go next? Remember to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Robert Martin. I am a middle school social studies teacher at the American International School of Chennai, India, and this is my second year doing the Out of Eden Learn project.
Great, thank you.
hello. Are you listening me? Okay. My name is Vanenka Mosqueira. I am originally from Peru. And I am working in Atlanta at the Atlanta International School. I am currently teaching MYP, grade 6, grade 7. I previously taught in primary school from 5K to grade 5. This is my second year using the resources in Spanish with Out of Eden Learn, and it's the first time that I am joining the walking party, the bilingual walking party.
So I just want to give a shout out here. Vanenka is actually part of our very first version of Out of Eden Learn in Spanish, which has just been going on for the last few weeks. So thank you, Vanenka, for joining us. It's really exciting. We also do hope to be having Holly Scott from Danville, California, join us. But we will see. Holly, if you're out there, we'll just you can just fold on in and we'll carry on. So we're going to go just in the order in which people's faces appear on the screen. So, Andy, do you want to kick off by just sharing some of the things that you've been doing with your students in the classroom, and in particular things that kind of built off of some of the ideas that we'd given and which you then developed into something of your own? Thank you.
I'll unmute myself. Okay, but yeah, we when we started off, you know, it was new to all of us, and one of the first things we did was look at Soul Brothers Dispatch. And I knew from pre-reading it that it was going to be a little bit hard for kids with vocabulary just at the 6th grade level. So I was trying to think of ways that we could, you know, that we could build our understanding of what Paul was trying to communicate about identity in that post. But also manage some of the vocabulary that I thought the kids were going to have a hard time with. And so that led us down a path of just talking about our shoes and what they tell us about our identity. And some of what happened happened because the kids had some ideas about how they would want to show what their shoes meant to them, and so we ended up doing some Google drawings, just to kind of and sort of an idea of notation, which is something I was trying to teach in class parallel to what we were doing. So they sort of notated identity related to their shoes, and tried to integrate some of what Paul was trying to say about how you can tell a lot about a person by the shoes that they wear. And overall, the objective, of seeing what we could learn about identity, I think, was fairly successful in that particular activity, by the kinds of products that the kids made. And I can try to screen share a couple of those, but you may have seen them already because I posted some of them on Twitter and whatnot. But yeah, so I guess my job was to try to just make it more accessible for the students, and then have them process their understanding of what their identity was. And let's see if I can, yeah.
I just had one question. When you were talking about notating, can you just say a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, I teach humanities. We work with different documents, and so one of the things that I'd also been teaching parallel to this was how students can take notes or write notes on a document, and just so that they can keep the most important nuggets or pieces of what a piece of text is about, or possibly a picture, just for their memory. And so, in this case, it was Paul's Soul Brothers story, and the subject of shoes was there, and I thought it would be valuable for them to, basically practice their skill of notating or making notes on top of an image like their shoes, as a way to practice the skill, but also help explain what identity was all about to them. So let's see, should I try to share a couple?
Sure, and just for everybody watching, what we can't screen share now, we'll be sure to post in the Educator Forum so people can go and check it. Great. Do you want to just try it?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot here. See if it'll work. Let's see, I can try the entire screen, I guess.
Yeah, so we're seeing your screen. We did see your screen. Yep. Oh, here it is.
Yeah. So these are some of the examples of what the kids did. There were a lot of nice examples, I thought, that came out of this. I'll just see if I can open one here real quickly. So this student, obviously likes soccer, but wanted to say some other things about who they are. I love sports. I'm athletic. I like to relax. And so they picked 3 different types of shoes that showed something about who they are. Let's see if I can find maybe another 1 or 2 here. Let's see here. Oh, and I guess, yeah, I'd forgotten that I also had them quote his line. I think it's the first line in Soul Brothers, which is footwear is a hallmark of modern identity. how best to glimpse an individual's core values at the start of the 21st century. Look down at their feet, not into their eyes. And so they were supposed to, be using that as part of their reflection. So this girl said, "I'm a girl. I like the color blue. I hate tying my shoes. I like walking. I do not like sand in my shoes, etc." So they were all really different, and just like the kids, I mean, they're all really individual expressions of their own identity. And I thought, it was really interesting. It was interesting for me as a teacher to watch them, developing these ideas about who they are and trying to express those.
I have a question for you, Andy. I guess, and it's been a while since I was a classroom teacher, but I'm thinking back to when I was. Did you have any concerns, or did it come up a bit of like there can be a bit of one-upmanship when it comes to footwear, especially in the US? Who's got the newest sneakers, etc., etc.? Was that an issue, or
exactly?
I mean, pretty much all of a similar economic background?
Yeah, because when they read Soul Brothers, they were like, "Ugh, what awful shoes!" I mean, they looked at the shoes in that story, and their immediate reaction was, "Oh gosh, look at those cheap plastic shoes." And so I had to stop the class and go, "Wait a second, let's think about what we're saying here, and why is it that we have multiple pairs of shoes at home and not just one pair of shoes? Why is it that that we sort of compare shoes with each other, and we always are looking at, oh, who's got the nice Nikes, or who has the nice soccer shoes, or who has the prettiest shoes? I mean, why do we do that?" And it started a really nice discussion about, oh, actually we're privileged. We're relatively wealthy. We can make a lot of choices. We can choose different shoes, and maybe other people can't. And so that was a really nice thing that happened as part of that reflection. But and so there's definitely that concern in there. But I thought it was valuable for kids to just recognize, yeah, I have some nice shoes compared to other people and other places, and maybe that's important to think about why I've got nicer shoes or more shoes than other people.
Great, thank you. That's great. Was there anything else you wanted to add, or?
I mean, I guess it continues. I mean, it continues to be really interesting, and some of what I was just saying, really getting at class, is coming out in the maps as well, and kids are realizing, like, a lot of my life is lived behind the walls of home, or is lived behind the walls at school, and I really don't know that much about my community, and I need to get outside and see my community. And there's some they're reflecting on class in a number of different ways, I think, which is interesting. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that's going or how that's going to develop, but it's been an interesting aspect of this. I think that's my speaker. I got to turn it off.
Okay. I was going to say, we've never had that happen before. I don't know what to do. Well, just while Andy's doing that, I'll just say. Could you just turn off your speaker for a second? Mute yourself there, Andy, for a minute. Yeah. So I'll just say, by way of background, that coming into this, I'll be honest, that I had a lot of concerns and kind of sensitivity around what would it feel like if we had kids in our community who are participating who quite visibly had less stuff than some of the other kids who were participating. And we have deliberately tried to mix things up so that kids who maybe have less resources than others do find themselves in the same walking parties. That's a kind of a big philosophy of Out of Eat and Learn, that it's not just geographic difference that we want, but we want kids who are in rural or urban areas who have less or more resources. So today, I have to say, it seems to have been a lot less of an issue than I would have said, but I kind of appreciate you raising some of those issues, because the truth is that some people participating are living way, and majority actually are living way more privileged lives than some of the people that Paul is encountering on his walk, for example, or who may be in a walking party. So we still haven't, figured out what's the best way of approaching this, and I think a lot of it has to be contextual. But yeah, I thank you for bringing up that point. I just want to, Holly, thank you for joining us. Holly, if you don't mind, we're going to kind of go around. I'm doing a little bit of watching of the time. We're going around, and people are sharing some of their practices. But if you don't mind just sitting and listening for a bit, and then we'll come back to you. Kyriaki, would you like to go next?
Hi. When I first studied Out of Eat and Learn curriculum, I focused on 3 specific points that I immediately integrated in my teaching practice. Well, Out of Eat and Learn invites young people and educators to slow down, to observe the world carefully. Now, children ages 5 to 6 years old typically can attend to one activity that is of interest to them for around 10 to 15 minutes. And the time spent looking at an object is usually 3 to 5 seconds. So if using a child's age as a general starting point for the number of minutes a child can remain concentrated to a single assigned task, one can ask how kindergartners can be engaged in slow-looking experiences. Well, one of the highlights of Out of Eat and Learn is the engagement in the art of long and thoughtful observation through Paul Salopek's material. In the camelology video, for instance, in footstep 3, Paul puts his own observation on display and models his own process of noticing things that usually go unseen at the fast pace of everyday life. So what I do with my students, and you can actually see it in my presentation. Wait a second. Okay. Can you? I hope you can see it now. Okay. So what I do with my students is the way we use these videos to watch students, to watch Paul as a close observer and pause the video periodically so as to discuss on what strategies he tries and why they are working. So as you see in this picture, children are in the presence of Paul as a model of slowing down to look closely at the world, and this fosters their ability to see and identify little elements within a larger system like their neighborhood. This modeling of slow looking fosters students' inclination toward careful observation and makes the walks in their neighborhood unexpectedly surprising, because they actually begin to be able to see what they are looking at. Just in this picture, you can see how the use of digital zoom revealed a honeycomb built on one of the ceiling lights of our school. So, Out of Eat and also invite us to listen attentively to others, and this listening should be sensitive to the patterns that connect us to others. So, listening is not easy, and in kindergarten needs time and needs to be generated by curiosity. I remember that Carla Rinaldi notes that listening produces questions, not answers. So again, in footstep 4, Paul's advices for asking open-ended questions and taking time to listen what other people have to say, so as to make them feel that their ideas are important and worth sharing, became a very powerful learning opportunity for creating a culture of listening in our classroom. So my biggest support to the process of creating this culture of listening is documentation. So as you see in this picture, documentation means continuously producing traces, such as written notes, slides, videos, and tape recordings of children's listening and learning experiences. This way, documentation gives me and my students visibility and interpretation of others. So every photo in Out of It and Learn has a story behind it, and with documentation, we can make this story visible and listenable. Documentation enhances children to be open to differences, recognize the value of the other's point of view, and listen with understanding. So in this picture, we see that giving value to the perspectives of others also involves welcoming parents' input. So I have a special place in my classroom where parents' ideas about Out of It and Learn are being listened. Now, when documentation is displayed on Out of It and Learn platform, children can develop a sensitivity to everything that connects them to the other children from around the globe, and therefore accomplish the third goal of Out of It and Learn curriculum, to reflect on how their own lives connect to bigger human stories. Of course, this connection to others is accomplished not only because of documentation, but because there is a context of communication. And this context is called Dialogue Toolkit. So aiming at encouraging children to effectively use the dialogue tools, I started by documenting their ideas about the specific interact moves that these tools suggest, and by giving them time to practice them in interaction with their friends, their classmates, and their families. So, as I see it now, children are aware of how to use these tools in their online exchanges. And I believe these tools have contributed significantly to their understanding of others, themselves, and the world. Okay.
Just unmute myself. So, Kyriaka, we've been thinking here at Project Zero about ways to really build on the Dialogue Toolkit, but I'll be honest that we had imagined the toolkit was aimed more at the students who are posting for themselves. So I just want to clarify that you've taken the tools, and we saw the symbols, and you're, even with your little ones, getting them to do things like make a connection or...
I started by documenting their ideas about what connect means for them, notice, and all these interact tools. And they have a stable starting point so as to recognize similar things to their friends from other schools' posts. So it is easy for me to document their ideas when they are make exchanges with the other schools of the other working party.
Great. Well, I think it would be really great if you don't mind posting some of those slides so that people can go in and take a closer look at what was in those photographs. And for those who aren't so familiar with Out of It and Learn, you should know that initially we had never intended elementary school, let alone preschool or kindergarteners, to take part in Out of It and Learn, but right from the start, I mean, one of the very first times I ever talked about Out of It and Learn, we've had a terrific response from teachers who teach younger students, and they have really innovated and adapted Out of It and Learn, which has just been amazing. So I will say, a lot of this great practice has not come from Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's come from around the world, and really, talented teachers of younger children who've seen the potential of what we're doing and adapted it down. So I'll even say we weren't even really thinking 6th grade to start with. It was thinking more high school and maybe upper middle school. So yeah, it has gone bigger and adapted.
Liz, can you?
Yeah. Yes, Holly. Hi.
I just wanted to double check that my microphone is on. I'm at my sister's house and disconnected their connection, so I'm doing this from my phone, and it's a little. I want to make sure I'm connecting correctly.
Yeah, you sound great, Holly. And actually, while you're there, do you just want to say who you are in your context, just very briefly, because you missed the introductions?
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to see if I was engaged. I'm Holly Scott. I'm a 5th grade teacher from Danville, California. And we are deeply immersed in Paul's Root and Out of It and Learn.
Great, thank you. We'll hear from you in a minute. Rob, do you want to go next?
Okay, can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Yes, wow. This is our second year of doing Out of Eden Learn, and one thing that I did this year, I wanted to start the year out by having a workshop for parents, and to not simply say send a letter home or an email message with information about what Out of Eden Learn is, but instead to have them come in and to see examples and samples of student work from last year, and to talk about the goals of the project, and to show them who Paul is and what his journey is about, and to get them to have a better understanding. It's not really my, it depends on where you live, but where I live in Chennai, I wouldn't tell a student just to go out and walk around his neighborhood on his own. I teach 6th grade kids, so like Andy, I think a lot of my students live behind walls, and a lot of their lives are spent kind of going from home to school, from home to the shopping mall, from home to the school, and so on. And so I think, while Chennai is very safe, India can be a very daunting place to a lot of young kids and adults as well. So having parents understand the purpose of Out of Eden Learn, and also the purpose of Paul's journey, was very, very important. And I think that they were very, very enthusiastic after seeing samples of kids' work and getting an understanding of the different skills students would develop during the course of this project. And that was a great way to start the journey. So that was one thing that I found to be successful. Another thing that I tried a few weeks ago is when we were preparing for our walks around the neighborhood to take photos, I asked two teachers who are fantastic photographers and who I really respect, to come in and to give a little a workshop, like a 20-minute seminar on how to take really good photos. And they shared their photos with the students, and the key advice from both of the gentlemen who shared it was to take a lot of photos. And that was one. They didn't share their presentation with each other, but that was a common thing I noticed. So take a lot of photos, and that was key. So the students, of course, anytime you can get a guest speaker to come to your classroom is wonderful. So these two happen to be teachers within the school, but I think there's other opportunities that I haven't really investigated or thought about where maybe I can have other guest speakers come in. One I just thought of recently was maybe having a journalist come in and to talk a little bit about the interview process, since next we're going into talking with your neighbors and asking questions. And Chennai has been going through their monsoon season, and we've had a lot of flooding, and I think a lot of students are going to be maybe asking people about how their lives have been affected by the recent flooding. Another thing that I think is very important and has been very successful for me has been to create some systems. And one system is having a shared Google document where students can draft their stories and what they're writing, and what they'll do is also peer review or peer edit each other's work. And I think that's very important. A lot of my students are English language learners. English is not their native language. Like a lot of international schools, we have a large percentage of English language learners. And regardless of whether they were English language learners or not, I think this is a very helpful document for them to draft their work and to go through the writing process before they copy and paste it and put it on the platform. Another thing that's been very very successful is just engaging in social media through Twitter chats that Paul has conducted. We recently did one, and I had students share some questions, and I told them that Paul is going to get a lot of questions. Don't expect him to answer all of them, but we tried to narrow them down to say 5 questions. But the kids were just overjoyed when he answered one of them. And what I did is I did a screenshot of his response, and I put it on our class blog and shared it out. And so that they love those opportunities to connect with Paul. And I was one who was never thought I would be on Twitter, and I eventually joined Twitter, and I've been engaging with other people within our walking party, using Twitter to share projects, to share ideas, to share photos and maps of what students have been doing. So I've really enjoyed that personally, and I find that to be a very helpful tool. Kids love social media. Out of Eden Learn has an Instagram page, and they love it anytime that they see that maybe Out of Eden Learn has selected their map or their photo or something to share out to the world, and I think that's exciting for kids too. Finally, let me look at my list here. I think the Educator Forum is starting to pick up speed and is being used by more teachers, and I think that's a very helpful tool for teachers to engage other people, not only within their walking party, but outside of their walking party. So teachers are starting to share ideas, to share rubrics they've created, to share some of the ways that they teach their students throughout of Eden Learn, and I think that's a very, very helpful tool that I encourage more people to use, more people within Out of Eden Learn to use. So I think those are a few of the things that we've been doing that I find successful in my class, and I teach middle school social studies.
Yeah, I don't know. We were having some technical trouble here, but I was trying to show some of Rob's slides through my window. Rob, we will take a piece of your advice and share those slides on the Educator Forum if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I will say a lot of the things that Rob shared there, those are things that are, very much, that's ideally what we would like to see happening. Students availing themselves, or with the teachers, availing themselves of opportunities to connect via some public events that Paul organises. We do hope to get him pretty soon onto an event that's uniquely for Out of Eden Learn as well. Sharing the resources, and I think that the idea, it's simple, but it makes a big difference. I think I've heard of a few teachers creating portfolios of the work they do on Out of Eden Learn, and it definitely has that added advantage of, whoops, the power goes down and I was in the middle of a post, and whoops, it's not there anymore, that kind of thing. So we did have one teacher a while ago called Kim, and she'd created a template that looked like a passport, and the students, there were 4th grade students, and as they filled in the work, they created a passport. So I think that's on our Educator Forum, but if not, I can make sure it goes up there. Because as I said, educators are adapting, coming up with stuff, and there's no point, to my mind, of teachers in multiple places reinventing the wheel. It would be great to share the resources and kind of build them up. I will say, don't be shy to put, make sure your name is on it so that you get some credit for this. The approach we take with our own stuff is that we put a Creative Commons license on it, so that we want our stuff to be freely available, to be adapted and out there, but at least we're signaling, hey, but we don't want somebody else to make a load of money off of the stuff that we're doing, or to adapt it and make it look like we did it when it's maybe not really what we had in mind. So I just put that out there because there are educators who are producing some really great materials, and I would want those teachers to get the due credit for what they've done, and to feel that they can share without just giving away all their best stuff, I guess. Great. Vanenka, do you want to join in and tell us what you've been doing for Out of Eden Learn on Espanol?
Oh, actually, I feel honored to be part of this first walking party in Spanish. It's an excitement. For me as a teacher and for my students, it's actually an amazing experience. And let me start to talk about a little bit about my context. I'm working in an international school. I have currently 15 students. They are coming from different language background, and we are a dual language school, so they are learning through the language, and they have been learning in primary through the language. So in class, but the first time that I introduced Out of Eden, it was an amazing experience because all of this philosophy about the slowing down and slowing journalism, it caught me immediately. So I remember I showed them a video from the platform, and we draw based on three main words: slow down, um, stories, how we can tell stories, our own stories and other stories, in order to find and recognize our differences, and reflect and make connections. And I think that was the starting point that, as an educator, helped me to work with my students, and my students take an ownership immediately with these short activities, and mimic what Paul Salopek does. So going around, taking some pictures, and using visible thinking routines to the slow looking. And the first, let me show you.
And can I just jump in, Vanenka? Not everybody will know what a visible thinking routine is, so could you say a bit how you've used those? Vanenka was already familiar with some other Project Zero work, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Visible thinking routine. So our main point as educator is the big understanding, how we can move our students to that particular point, not just from context or based on our curricula as a paperwork, is to let them think using their previous knowledge and using the new resources of the resources that we have in classroom. For example, one of the routines that I used at the beginning, it was the bridge, where you ask the students to, I remember I show a picture from the platform where is this dispatch of Paul Salopek in Ethiopia with one very dry food. So the students were looking at the picture and they start coming with three main ideas. Then they ask two main questions and they make an analogy. And the bridge trying to make a connection from the beginning, what they saw, and then make connection with what they have been learning. So show the process of learning. I use the picture, and then we start reading about the dispatches because it was the first tool that I used from the website because it's in Spanish. All of the other information was in English. So I used the first dispatch. It was, we went through line to line, trying to use another thinking routine that is step inside from the author perspective and what he was facing at that particular moment where he took the picture. It was very, very powerful. The students all connect with their own emotions and what they know. I remember it was the unit of where we are in place and time, and we trying to make some other connection because in grade 5 we have what we call the journey abroad. So students go to a language and the language and a Spanish-speaking country to spend 10 days in a full immersion environment. So we create passports, and we use the Out of Eden Learn, and we were using doodling, where the students are drawing and trying to explain what their ideas and thoughts in pictures, through pictures, and we made the connection with Paul Salopek. So it was the first time that I used, as a language teacher, the resources from the website. The ideas that came out were very impressive. So the first connection was the maps, where we are. So we were using some, trying to use the IT resources, the technology in this case, so we used Google Maps. So then they were fascinated trying to find where they are going to be. It was, I think, 20 days before the trip. So this type of connections help them to understand the main idea of our unit of inquiry. Without the, sometimes it's not that easy for them if we go and just show what is our unit purpose. And and in this case, they went through the process and they show what they were understanding about what they will do in Costa Rica in this case. So let me try, I'm trying to share with you my screenshot, my screen share. Can you see it?
No.
And now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now we can see.
So this was the, can you see it now?
Yeah.
This is what I was referring before. So they use Costa Rica, they start making the main ideas about slowing down and slow looking, zooming into the details of what they were wanted to see, and we use obviously the language in this case is stop, breathe, and listen closely. Listen to the others' ideas, and using some of questions that they need, and start interview others. This was to Costa Rica. What I'm doing now is using, what I found very helpful is, because we are part of the bilingual working party, is just Google Classrooms. Because in that way, it's more helpful for us as a teacher to document the whole process from the beginning to the end. So using Google Classrooms, I post this is the first dispatch that my students work on it. They took a picture, and this was after their trip to Costa Rica. They came with one picture, their pictures. They create the headlines. That is a very deeper thinking, actually. Looking at the picture and make in a headline the main idea of the picture. They found exactly place on the Google map where they were visiting. They took a picture of themselves, and they wrote some paragraphs. So, for example, I'm sorry. Here is what they feel, showing their emotions, and I found that after doing this, they were talking about Paul Salopek as a person who is experiencing by themselves, knowing other people and having taken the time to listen other stories. So what I want to show you now is the Google Classroom. I don't know what happened. Okay. Dispatches, it was the first tool. As my students are second language learners, I have some of them that are native speakers. I found very valuable the kit where you can use this type of visual image to request them to express themselves using, like, what do you notice, right? What are the connections that you make? So the dialogue kit that is on the as a educator tool, and I found very impacting on my students, because during our oral activities, they start using it like you are perceiving, you are noticing, you are appreciating. So using that type of vocabulary and using the vocabulary of thinking, showing their ideas, I think is very it is important and help us as a teacher to also document their learning. I have one of the pictures that it called my attention from one of my students. I'm sorry, I think I lost. Is this? Is a tree that is next to her house, and she was looking at and she saw many other things, and she started creating stories about it. She used the zooming in visual thinking routine, and she verbalized their stories in front of the class. And I found that very interesting from their students' perspective, because then they start thinking about different stories that just one picture can let us create.
Banenka, can I just say, I mean, I think you're showing us so many amazing ideas, and I think what's nice is that you've made some connections to other resources at Project Zero that we can be sure to share out. As you said, some of the Project Zero work, because we have actually got quite an established network of teachers in South America in particular. Some of these are available in Spanish as well, so we'll be sure to put up some of the links. I have to say there's such a richness of stuff here. I'm also thinking that I can rewatch the video and make a blog post, because we have a lot of readers of our blog, and some people prefer the blog to a Google Plus Hangout, etc., and pull some highlights, I think, from across from what we've said. But Holly, I want to make sure that we hear from you. Banenka, if you don't mind, I'm sure you've got some more stuff, but I'm just watching the clock a little bit here, and would just like to pass over to Holly for now. Thank you.
So,
wonderful.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Liz? Okay.
Yes.
So feel free to cut me off when you need to. And let me just say that our class is immersed in Out of Eden Learn, as well as Paul's track. And really, the whole program is not something we do lightly at all in our classroom. We are deeply immersed in it. And so he represents depth of our curriculum, and we are observing him as he immerses his own life into his track. And he is a model for my students to see deep immersion, and then they can practice that by immersing themselves in the footsteps. I believe that for the students to get as much out of learning as they can, they have to feel like they are deep into the work. And I had a mentor when I first started teaching, and I was overwhelmed with everything we were supposed to do, and I asked her, what do I do? And she said, choose one thing, immerse yourself deeply, do it the best you can, and the children will feel the passion of learning from that. And Paul and Out of Eden Learn is sort of the way I approach this. So my hope is that the students will develop a connection to Paul through reading his dispatches, the milestones. We follow him in depth on Twitter, and so that they will care about him, and they will feel like they're in a relationship with him, and watch his immersion in his craft. And then again, for my students to immerse themselves in their craft when they're doing the different footsteps of Out of Eden Learn. I think the other thing that Paul represents is he models good work, and our class is studying sort of good work and what it means in terms of excellence, and how he commits himself fully, as well as engagement, and how he is fully engaged in the land he goes to, the research he does on it, the people he meets, and as well as his ethical stance on the work he does. And so we are watching closely how those things tie into his work, so that they will see him as a model of what good work is.
Can I just interrupt 1 second? Sorry, Holly, because I know that you're using good work in the sense that Howard Gardner uses it, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So for those who aren't aware, that we have, for over a decade now, Project Zero has housed something called the Good Work Project. It's now become the Good Project just because it encompasses so many different domains. But this has been the primary work of Howard Gardner, our colleague. So again, we can put the link up to that. But this is actually the first time, Holly, I've heard somebody made a link between that project and Out of Eden Learn. So this is really interesting.
Oh, he's a wonderful model of it all. So how does he fit into our curriculum? Paul and Out of Eden Learn fit into every aspect of our curriculum. In terms of geography, we have a 4-foot by 4-foot map of his intended route up on the wall. And then our students are mapping exactly where he's going, and so how his route is changing, and we're discussing a lot of why it's changing. In language arts, they're writing prolifically for each of the footsteps, the maps, the interviews, the narratives about themselves, and they're inspired to post, so they're really, really purposeful about how they edit. I won't let them edit anything until it's been edited by 3 people. And so they're improving their writing skills. Social studies, just his study of talking closely to people and understanding their perspective is very deep and profound for our students to be experiencing. And then there's the communication, the digital citizenship that comes out in the whole Out of Eden Learn site, and the guidelines for how to communicate, and our students follow those very closely in how to respond to other students in our walking party, and we talk and observe the posts of other students and the replies, and we analyze those in terms of respectable communication. But I think also I take the footsteps and try to do much more with them in terms of background with the students, so that because all the skills that are in each of the footsteps really do tie to the standards we are supposed to be teaching, the Common Core standards. But if I might focus in on the footstep 4, which was the interviewing footstep, which to me is so valuable because it's the interviewing process, the talking to other people, learning the skills of that, how to pull deep information from others is so valuable. And the kids connect if they see a purpose and a relationship to their real life. So everything about what Paul's doing is, and that the footsteps are related to their real life. So I actually use a few apps for documenting what we've done in the classroom, and I was going to do a screen share, but since I'm on my telephone right now,
okay.
have ruined my connection in my sister's house, so I was going to talk through it. But you can go, I use Twitter a lot, and so now I'm into this app called Storehouse, and you can document, I can document the kids in process working, I can document the work they do in a very, very easy slideshow. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And then we can go back as a class and recap all the steps we did and connect to each of the steps, the types of thinking that we were using in each of the, so it's a visual representation of everything we're doing. And so just as an example of what we did for the interview process is we first talked about all the valuable skills that came out of interviewing well, and how to structure a dialogue, how you build a trust with the person that you're interviewing, how you gather information, how you synthesize. So the interview is a very, very complex process. And after we talked about it, we listened to we used, as Rob said, the StoryCorps site, and we actually listened to some interviews that were on the site, and that gave the students a sense of the importance of narrative and the importance of people telling their everyday stories and the meaning that came out of them. After that, we used a thinking routine called Parts, Purposes, and Complexities, and that's where we really took apart the interview process and we showed the different parts that were in the process. Then we focused in what were the purposes of the different parts, And then we talked about the complexities of the interview process, and that was a fascinating discussion where what comes up if the person you're interviewing doesn't want to reveal anything, or what comes up if the person who you're interviewing goes off out of focus and isn't answering the questions that the students want to ask. And so we saw certain challenges that were going to come about, and we addressed them so the students were very prepared for their interviews. And we also discussed how to win the trust of the interviewee, such as taking the person treats and sharing a little bit about our own lives before we target them with a lot of questions. Then what happened is another teacher in our school is involved with Out of Eden Learn, and she came in with her class, and we did a fishbowl interview where a student from my class interviewed her, and 55 of our students were circled around them, and it was quite amazing for my student to take that risk. He's a quiet student, and she purposely went off, talked a lot in other directions, and so that then we could stop and talk to the class about what do you do now about how to bring the interviewee back into the direction that the student wanted to move in. See, after that.
Yeah,
after the
Holly.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you said I could cut you off.
Please cut me off.
No, the only reason I'm just mindful that some people might need to leave imminently. What this session has told me is that the riches that are out there are incredible. Because I knew that all of you were doing some innovative work. I hadn't quite realised the range and depth. So we really need to think about the best way to share this, and so I'll be getting in touch with you. I did just want to end by just giving you an exclusive update on where Paul is right now. I did speak to him over the weekend, and he's currently in the foothills of the Caucasus in Azerbaijan. We had to postpone our first conversation because he and his guide had temporarily got lost in the mountain mist, which caused me a little bit of concern. But they obviously made it out to a village, and they slept that night with a family. And when I spoke to him, he had made it to a village which was village come town, where he was actually at a guest house with Wi-Fi. But in about 2 weeks, he should make it to the capital of Azerbaijan, and then from there, he will be getting a ferry to Kazakhstan. Beyond that, it's into the unknown, but I thought you might appreciate a few details as to where he's at, and you might have noticed that he's really been posting a lot of blogs of late, of dispatches of late. So, yeah, things are good, and yeah, there's exciting things in the pipeline, both for Out of Eden Learn and the National Geographic website. So, with that, and I'm afraid we didn't get to have more of a conversation, I'm happy to keep on for a few minutes if people wanted to talk amongst yourselves, but if people need to bow out, we are actually at our 12 o'clock. So if people want to say goodbye, that's fine. If you want to have a few minutes amongst yourselves, I will step back. I'll be here, but I won't say anything. And I just really, really want to thank you, because without you guys doing the work and bringing Out of Eden Learn forward, this would be nothing. So thank you so much for generously sharing and being part of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was great.
Yeah,
So
thank you. It was excellent.
I'm going to stop the podcast, but you'll be on actually. So.